we head straight to Nashville, catching up with our friend Cory Curtis. There is a lot to talk about here, Cory, because you got a basketball team, actually two basketball teams.
Were they combined 35-0 right now?
Yes.
33.
33-0, an unbelievable start here. First of all, Cory, for the men's team, this is a team that heard a lot of trash talk last week when Nate Oates basically said they hadn't played anybody. Then they beat Alabama. They get another win this past week.
Why would you do that?
I have no idea. I have no clue. Why would you put more bulletin board material for probably the best player in the SEC so far, Tyler Tanner?
Been good.
And definitely one of the Coach of the Year candidates, and Coach Mark Byington. Got a big win over LSU. What do you make of this team now that it feels confirmed that this team is the upper crust of the SEC and now a top 10 team in the country?
Well, the whole thing is, having to prove it over and over again. And, you had that big game with Alabama, and that was an emotional win where you knocked them off 96-90. And Tyler Tanner had a huge game in that one with 29 points. He was electric for them. But so you don't get fat and happy on that win. You come out and you take care of business, on Saturday, shows the maturity of the basketball team. They got out to a big lead. LSU came back, but they were still able to slam the door defensively. This is another game where they didn't shoot the ball great, but still were good enough defensively, and Tanner was good enough to close it out. We talked about that last week. Who's going to be the guy with the ball in his hands at the end of the game? And it was Tyler Tanner, and he was able to close out LSU. And so, I think there's a lot about that win over LSU that speaks to the maturity of this team and the way they were able to win despite not shooting well, because they shot 23% from three-point range in that game. Tyler Nickel still hit 4. So like I said, you're generally not going to close them all out. But, they did a good job of holding Vanderbilt down from the perimeter. But Vanderbilt was still good enough to win that basketball game. Now, they're 3-0 in the league. I think we would say LSU and South Carolina are bottom half of the league, but they do have the win over Alabama. And now they've got Texas next, who looks to be fallible. Then after that, they got a couple tough ones. They got Florida and Arkansas. And, we'll see if they can get through that back-to-back unscathed. That would be a heck of a job by Mark Byington if he gets through that back-to-back without his first L of the season.
Cory, it seems like this year Vanderbilt it does such a nice job of getting off to these fast starts. 52 points in the first half against LSU, but it seemed like, in my opinion, and you could touch on this if you want to, it feels like they could have won by more, and it seemed like they got off to a little bit of a sluggish start in the second half. What would you chalk that up to?
Well, they didn't shoot the basketball better. It didn't shoot the basketball as well in the second half. I would chalk it up to being a conference basketball game. Right. And when you play in the conference, it usually gets harder. And one half usually isn't the same as the second half. Would you like to see them close it out a little better? Sure. That's an area that they can improve from. But when LSU did push, they were able to push back and take care of the game. They weren't the Green Bay Packers out there. They took care of business.
Yeah.
A lot of teams did not take care of business.
That's very true. That's very true. Tyler Tanner specifically, this is a guy that you've seen last year.
SEC Player of the Week.
Exactly. SEC Player of the Week. And you know him very well. It's obviously, I guess, from Brentwood Academy. Is that where he went to high school?
Yep.
So
Brentwood Academy.
Right. So he's right there in that Nashville area. And this is not a diss to him whatsoever, but I don't think anybody saw this level of production from him coming into this year. He was kind of not run-of-the-mill too strong, but he was just kind of like an okay, nice glue guy, chip-in player. What do you make of this emergence here and what he's brought from a leadership standpoint to this team?
Well, look, we asked going into the season, who's going to be the guy with the ball in his hands at the end? And, he might have been on the board there, but we didn't know how much growth we were going to see from him. And bottom line is he doesn't look the part, right?
Right.
He's not that big. Now, he could still throw it down. He's got some major league hops, but he's got strong hands with the ball. He can shoot the ball, and he has developed as well as any player in the country from one season to the next. 100%. And he absolutely, I always talk about this, with the NFL, and it goes to all sports, all right? Guys are allowed to get better. We tend to pigeonhole people for what they are and forget that they're 18, 19-year-old kids and that they can get better. He went to the same high school as Darius Garland, and Darius Garland went to the NBA and was good, and then like 2 years later he was an all-star.
Right,
It takes some time. With Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, what was he at Kentucky? Like 4-2,
right?
When he got drafted by Oklahoma City, and now he's the best player in the NBA, arguably. I mean, so yeah, guys are allowed to get better, but I mean, when he doesn't pass the eye test, that's the bottom line. Like I say, he looks like a guy who's playing pickup at the Y, but he puts in the work. He's got a desire to be great. He's fearless with the ball in his hands.
No question.
And he has developed. And look, Duke Miles might still be averaging more than he is per game. They're both up around 17, 18 points per game. So they've, and Tyler Nickel can score too. They've got other guys who can score, but this is go time.
Yeah.
The conference is the go time.
Right.
And that's what separates things. And he had already begun to separate himself, but in these 3 games, he has really separated himself. I mean, he had the darn near perfect game down at South Carolina, which was 19-14, then 29 against Alabama, and then 20 more against LSU. I mean, he is that's SEC Player of the Year start right there. I know we're only 3 games in, but I mean, realistically, that's where he's at the first 3 games. He's in that conversation.
Yeah. The difference between the good coaches and the great coaches are the great coaches will find a way to get better even in losses, and that's exactly what, or even in wins, that's exactly what Mark Byington did. Here's Coach after the game.
That fatigue hit us about the last 4 minutes of the first half. And I think we came out the second half and Duke Miles got fouled right away. And we got to the free throw line and got some points there. But then there was a drought, like you said, and it really was. It was some open shots that we just didn't miss that we normally make, and I just thought our guys didn't have the legs they normally have, but I just like the resilience. We went through that stretch, and they still figured their way out of it.
Not just the men, Cory, it's also the women, undefeated so far on the season.
Hold on, before we turn the page.
100%.
Before we turn the page.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got to bring this up.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about this. He and Kurt Signetti were on the JMU campus at the same time.
Such a good point. That's such a good point.
And, I mean, they might be the best 2 coaches in America right now.
Yeah.
And
so what you're saying is Bob Chesney's going to go 15-0 at UCLA next year.
No, I'm not saying that at all. But whoever hired them saw something and got it right. And Mark talks about being with Signetti, and what kind of a freak he is in the coaching front. But I mean, it's just that's remarkable that both those guys were on the campus at the same time. Both won big at JMU, and also, I think we didn't appreciate how impressive the JMU job was because they just made the jump to 1A,
right,
and just had success like that, and stepped up in basketball, also had success like that, and it's just going to show you hire the right people, and that I mean, what's Indiana's record right now? 15-0.
15-0, yeah.
Yeah. So they're a combined 29-0.
Yeah.
29-0.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I meant to bring that up earlier, and that is amazing. That both those guys were on campus together. Now they both go to their next jobs, and they're both just unbelievable.
Absolutely. It's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up. Now to those women, though.
Okay,
undefeated,
there we go.
And they go in the non-conference play coming up here shortly. So this is an interesting basketball team because we thought the men could do it. This women's team, this is a very, very good SEC, and they can just continue to prove that they belong up there with the top teams in the country.
It's interesting that you put it that way because going into the season, I had higher hopes for the women's team
than
I did the men's team.
You're a soothsayer on that.
But no, just because Michaela Blakes is one of the 3 best players in America.
Very true.
Shea Ralph has been absolutely unbelievable in her job at Vanderbilt. They had a big time player in Aubrey Galvin coming in. So the success they are having is not surprising me at all. And they went out and played big this weekend. And it's been interesting to see because the last couple of games, teams have done a good job on Michaela in like the first quarter or the first half. but she still lines up with her 25.
Yeah.
And, but they're getting, I mean, I think Passat had 5 threes in the last game. And if they can get that kind of secondary scoring, there are not many teams that are going to beat them. I don't mean to sound arrogant about that. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're just, it's good luck.
Right.
Good luck.
I mean, she basically single-handedly beat LSU like not that long ago. And I remember that you talked to us about how if teams can kind of eliminate Michaela's output on the game, then Vanderbilt might be in trouble. And you bring up Passat, and she had a really nice night, 22 points for Vanderbilt. Can she be that second scorer that can help complement Michaela? No, you don't know.
She's been streaky, and she needs to not be. But look, Galvin has been. Galvin, the young point guard, she has been a consistent force for them, both with assists and for scoring. And then up front, Sasha Washington is not the player that they had last year in Camille Pierre. Just imagine how they'd be if she was still on the team. But what Sasha is a consistent double-double type player, that player who does 10 and 12 or does 8 and 11. And so she fills her role really well for this team. And, Galvin, what she had against A&M, she had 12 points, 7 assists, and 4 steals. I don't know where she is on steals in the SEC, but I would be willing to bet she's in the top 5 or 6 as a true freshman. So they have secondary scoring, with Galvin and Washington. But if Passat can be consistent and not give them 22 every night, but give them 8 to 15 every night,
they'll be in good shape.
They'll be in good shape. They're very, I will be very surprised if they are not a Sweet 16 team this year. I think this season, I don't want to call it a fail. It's a missed opportunity.
Right.
If they're not in the Sweet 16 at the very least. Michaela's got 1 year left after this, so they've got to strike now and next year, and they have a lot of pieces in place to do it. Now, I don't know about their bench depth. They bring a couple of ladies off the bench. They've got some size that doesn't play a lot off the bench, but if they get in foul trouble, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
But they're set up pretty well there with that front. And again, if Passat shoots well, you just go home.
Yeah, I mean,
and so far it's been 15 up, 15 down.
15 up.
And
I think she was a McDonald's All-American.
She was,
She went to Tennessee and then transferred. So it's not like her having success
should be a surprise.
Right.
No, right. She definitely has a track record.
She's really long. I mean, I remember going out there to practice. I mean, good luck getting a hand in her face. She's like 6'4".
Corey, I've got one more thing for you before we let you go here. So it is January 12th. Go back to what you were thinking about, before the football season. If I told you that on January 12th, of the men's basketball, women's basketball, football, and the baseball teams, that the baseball team would be the lowest ranked of the 4, would you have thought I was crazy?
Probably, because seeing Vanderbilt, win 10 games in football, you believe it when you see it.
Right.
I mean, I thought they would be good. That didn't mean I thought they were going to win 10 games.
Yeah. Right.
Because look, beating LSU, that's not one we had on our in our win column before the season.
Exactly.
And so, I was talking with Mark Byington about this just last week about the success of the campus, and he just talked about how united all of the teams are and how they all support. The men show up to watch the women show up to watch the men. They all show up to football games. It's a small campus, and they all support each other. And right now you have a lot of high-end coaches on campus. I mean, college basketball, I always say Jimmy's and Joe's are the bigger than the X's and those. In college athletics, the most important person on the team is the head coach.
Absolutely.
And you've got Tim Corbin, you've got Shea Ralph, you got Mark Byington, which is, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit of a surprise for me, and I was wrong. He's been fantastic, and then Clark Lee with Jerry Kill has things rolling for the men. So by the way, he is a finalist for the Coach of the Year award coming up here,
right?
As well. He's not gonna win it. I think we all know who's gonna win it. but he's up for it. But I always say that winning doesn't happen by accident in college athletics. I never bought the excuse that Vanderbilt struggled because they're an academic university. Notre Dame's always won big. Michigan's always won big. Stanford won very big. I mean, Stanford was the king of the all sports trophy for a very long time.
Yeah.
These are all private schools except for Michigan, but all have huge endowments and huge amounts of money. And those schools put money towards athletics. Being championship caliber was important to them. It was not important to Vanderbilt for a very long time.
Absolutely.
Now it is. The stadium's been revamped. They've built a whole new. They've redone a lot of Memorial Gym. You can't, by watching the game, you can't see a lot of the changes to Memorial Gym.
Right.
They built all new practice facilities and locker rooms and all that sort of stuff. And the transformation of the entire campus, is a sight to see for everyone. I mean, they are buying up every piece of real estate there is to build up the campus, and that now includes the athletic program.
Absolutely.
And for a long time it did not. And they also have committed financially to NIL, and bringing in players. Look at Mark Byington, and he only brought back 3 players from last year. Okay, so they spent money in NIL to support the roster. I'm willing to bet Michaela Blake's is not free. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then Diego Pavia was a 7-figure player for them this year.
Yeah.
All right. So it didn't happen by accident. They invested in coaches. They invested in facilities. They invested in players. They invested in winning. All right. You have to make good choices when you do it, but they made an investment to do it, and it wasn't a partial investment. It was a legitimate investment to say, hey, we want to be players.
Yeah.
And now they're players, and they're arguably the hottest athletic department in the entire league.
In the country right now, yeah, and they're kind of setting the blueprint for everybody else for what this means moving forward if you want to take that program to the next level and still maintain strong academics. Cory, thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus, brother. Continue to enjoy great basketball.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.